I, M28, convinced my girlfriend, F27, to move to the other side of the world with me. She is miserable, homesick, and our relationship has been suffering since the move. Is it time to convince her to go home? My girlfriend is Australian and I am Spanish. We met in Australia and lived together for a year and a half. I worked and she studied. After she graduated, I convinced her to move back to Europe with me as I was feeling homesick. She was very excited by the move and was really eager to try living abroad. We have now been living in Spain for 1 year, and things have been really difficult. She can't find work and is struggling with living somewhere with a language barrier. She is learning Spanish, but still can't go out and do things by herself without me coming to translate. The last year has been really tough for our relationship. We have had a lot of stress with moving without much planning, and then issues with long and complicated visa processes. The first 6 months were particularly rough as the job I moved here for fell through at the last minute, and there has also been family drama that I will not go into. If I had known how tough it would be for her, I would not have considered moving back, to be honest. I have found another good job, and am quite content with life. My GF, however, is struggling to make friends, demotivated by how difficult the job market is right now, and feeling very homesick. She is also seeing all of her friends back home find graduate jobs, while she is having very little success. She spends most days sitting in our apartment depressed, doesn't have the energy to go out to meet people, and complains about being broke and that she is wasting her life and will never find work. I have offered to help her with money to do things, but this triggers her to tears because I am already paying our rent, and she doesn't like being financially dependent on me. I have also tried to introduce her to my friends, but she wants to make her own. I worry she is in such a pit now that she won't be able to get out of it. I have been very insistent that if it is too much for her, we could move back to Australia. I've even told her I would understand if she just had to pack up and go home alone. Then we could do long distance while I apply for a visa and plan my own move over. I have a very highly skilled job and speak English, so it would not be difficult for me to move there. However, she insists that she wants to make the most of living in Europe and is embarrassed to go home, having not succeeded here. I feel really guilty because I have made her come here where it is more difficult for her to find work and meet people than it would be for me in her country. It has also cost us a lot of money and time. When we first talked about the move, she was really excited about trying something new, and I was excited to go home. We knew it would be difficult at first, but neither of us expected this much. Now in hindsight, I feel awful that I didn't let her gain more work experience after graduating and move over with more of a plan. I am really worried that she is going to grow to resent me the longer she stays, and I don't know if I should push her to go home, or if I should just keep supporting her however I can and hope things get better. Too long did not read. I convinced my girlfriend to move abroad. After being here for a year, she is really struggling and feels like she is wasting her life. I am worried about what will happen if we stay here and things continue as they are. I don't know if I should try to convince her to go home, or stay and hope things get better. Been through the same. Go back to Australia. Her Spanish will never be good enough to integrate. The Spanish job market sucks, and this whole situation will only get much, much worse. Does the family drama also mean she is isolated from or disliked by your family? If she can't do things without you being there and translating, she'll never learn the language. I feel like I never developed a deep connection with my girlfriend, and we've been dating for almost 2 years. Too long did not read. On paper, my girlfriend is everything I've wanted, but I don't feel a deep personal connection with. Is this normal? I, 36M, love my girlfriend, 33F. I think she is a beautiful person both inside and out. I believe she would make a great mother, which is important to me. We also align on many fundamental values, such as our approach to money/saving, our diets, and overall lifestyle. However, I feel like we don't have a strong personal connection. When I'm struggling with something, I don't think about her as someone I want to share it with, either to help work through, or even just to vent. I guess deep down I usually think she won't be able to help or understand what I'm going through, even if I don't consciously acknowledge this every time. Part of this is my personality as someone who is pretty independent and can be private, but in previous relationships I can remember discussing some problems fairly openly. We also don't really have the same sense of humor. I tend to joke around a lot, but my sense of humor is pretty dry. I still remember the first time we hung out together with a close friend of mine, and he made a comment specifically about how he imagined that when we were alone together, I must make a lot of jokes that go completely unacknowledged, which rang true. It's not that I care about not being seen as funny. It just kind of bothers me not to be able to laugh about stupid, everyday things. Early on I assumed part of this was that although she is fluent in English, it is not her first language. I definitely think that contributes, but I suspect it's not the biggest issue. I spend a lot of my time listening to music, which I think can often overcome some of that language barrier, but we have completely different tastes, and it's not just a cultural difference. This is probably the thing that bothers me the most. I miss being able to share a song that I love with someone and having them get it. Even though it's a relatively minor thing, it almost seems like reflection of a bigger disconnect between us. I guess I feel conflicted. Part me thinks that I'm expecting too much from one person. They're supposed to be attractive, a good person, someone that I can imagine to be a good mother, and my best friend who gets all of my jokes and shares my taste in everything. However, as I get older, it seems like my regular friendships grow more and more apart. I think that's not unusual as people get married and start families, but now the people I could normally share some of these other things with aren't there. I think I could ultimately live with that. As I said earlier, I'm quite independent and don't mind spending time by myself. Sometimes when I imagine our future together, I imagine me coming home from work and sitting in something like a den by myself reading or listening to music. I just wonder if I'm doing my girlfriend a disservice or setting us up for failure by choosing to ignore this. I appreciate any insight. Sounds like you guys aren't compatible. Maybe stop wasting her time so she can find someone who will love her and communicate. Sometimes someone is great, but simply not the person for you. Your girlfriend is not the person for you, and you aren't the person for her. You should break up so you can both try and find your people. My fiancé, 29M, is constantly distracted during our time together, and I feel invisible. Should I stay? I'm a 25F engaged to my fiancé, 29M. We've known each other since 2022, officially dated in 2024, and have been long distance from the beginning. We've been engaged for about a year. I'm exhausted and honestly questioning whether love is enough here. When we call, he's usually on his PC or laptop with dual screens, so I can visibly tell when his attention is elsewhere. Even during the very limited time we have together, he's often multitasking, browsing, watching gaming content, or doing other things while I'm talking. Because of our 8-hour time difference, we don't talk every day. I work full-time. Our daily chats isn't a consistent thing, but he'll try to make an effort to call once a week. But somehow there is always something else he's doing, scrolling, looking things up, watching gaming content, multitasking. It feels like I'm competing with his phone. We traveled together to Vietnam about 4 months ago. On literally our second day, we were stuck in traffic for 4 hours, and he was on his phone the entire time. No conversation. No presence. Later during the trip, I got bad food poisoning. I was weak, holding my clutch, genuinely felt awful. He went into another room to listen to an audiobook. I recovered mostly alone. I watched Netflix by myself while he did his own thing. I remember thinking, why am I even here with this person? Recently, I've tried to engage him more, asking questions, wanting to talk about thoughts, feelings, anything beyond surface level. He says he feels cornered or attacked, that I make conversations into issues. But sometimes I just want to talk. Sometimes I just want to feel like he's present with me. If I sense he's closed off, I'll go on my own phone because what else am I supposed to do? And then he turns it around on me and says I'm always on my phone too. Frankly, I've started mirroring his behavior. I never had this issue with my exes or even friends. I'm usually very present. With him, I slowly lost that because I felt ignored. And when I catch myself doing it, I stop. I don't want to be like him. We recently watched a movie together. I genuinely enjoyed it and barely touched my phone. When it ended, I was excited to talk. He immediately started looking at League of Legends stuff while saying, I enjoyed our day. Mind you, I stayed up till midnight knowing he'll messed up my Monday morning. The lack of enthusiasm, the distraction, the lack of presence made me feel so ignored. Like, why are we even here? I've communicated this many times. Calmly, clearly, over and over. He apologizes, deflects, or blames his mood. Nothing changes. He is also the type that does one good thing and start fishing compliments for it. So changes are often minimal. I also saw this behavior at his parents' house. During meals, his parents would sit quietly or talk to me, while he was glued to his phone. I understand he's an only child, and meal times might have been boring growing up, but he chose to be in a relationship. I should have said something then. Now it feels too late, LMAO. I love him, but I'm starting to feel like he's a project, not a partner. And projects are the hardest to leave because of how much effort you've already invested. I truly feel burnout. I don't look forward to his messages anymore. When I wake up in the morning, he is not one I think about. Funnily, the ring on my finger constantly reminds me that I'm taken. He currently doesn't have a job. Our plan to close the distance is now uncertain. I was supposed to move there to further my studies, but now I have many job opportunities here, where he doesn't have much going for him here. I have no idea what I should do. I'm tired. Should I leave, even if I love him? I have asked myself over and over. I do love him, but this is not the life I envisioned. I just want to leave the relationship smoothly. He isn't a bad person after all. But I want him to wake up and know I'm not able to keep up with being ignored. Too long did not read. My fiancé, 29M, and I, 25F, are long distance with an 8-hour time difference, so we don't get much time together. When we do talk or call, he's almost always distracted, on his phone or dual screens, and rarely fully present. This has happened repeatedly, including while together and when I was sick. I've communicated this many times, but nothing changes long term. I love him, but I feel invisible, and this relationship is a project. How to leave? It won't get better, trust me. I am divorcing my wife of 7 years for similar reasons. It doesn't get better, it only gets worse. The competition for their attention just gets tougher and tougher. Eventually they just blame you for not being interesting. Don't be engaged to someone if you've never lived in the same zip code before. Fiancé relapsed again. Me, 29F, and my fiancé, 28M, have been together for almost 6 years. I've been struggling with his addiction to alcohol and weed for years now, which I started realizing was a problem early on in our relationship. We've gone through a lot of the typical addict behavior, but I stuck through it all because he's my best, and I mean my best friend. I have encouraged his recovery, taken him to meetings, and stayed through it all. We were planning on getting married this year and have everything set and paid for, but this is his 3rd relapse in 16 months, which I guess isn't that much. That being said, he has been doing a lot better since we first met. For the past month or so, he had been exhibiting the signs of relapse, and we had the same conversations about our relapse plan, that I wouldn't judge him or be angry if he told me the truth, and we could work on it together. The last 2 times this happened, we made a better relapse plan, that if he had an urge to drink or smoke that he would call someone, sponsor or meeting buddy, and or if he didn't do that first and did end up using, that he would call them anyway and just be honest with me, and we would take the steps together to get him help, to a meeting, etc. However, the alternative is that I said for me the relapse isn't the issue, it's the lie, and the boundary is now that if you lie to me about it after you've had a chance to come clean, in this case over a month, then he would be moving back in with his parents. I said this before, and he has moved out. We lived separately for 2 years and are now trying again. I thought this time it would stick, but since the first month he moved back in, this has been an issue, leading me to believe it was an issue the whole time he wasn't here as well. Well, a few days ago I come into his gaming room, and it smells like a weed pen. Obviously, I tell him I smell the pen and ask why. Then I remind him of our honesty policy and give him a chance to come clean. He says no, gaslights me into believing I have been really reading into things lately, and it's probably a smell coming from a neighbor. We live in an apartment, and he's been doing really well, and would never do anything to mess things up this time. So I think, of course, I am being crazy. Why would he lie at this point? Why would he want to end things over something like this when he could just be honest? Couldn't let it go because it just didn't seem right, then later found the weed pen later in his drawer. Now he is saying he's so devastated and didn't want to tell me because he was ashamed, and now he's scared of losing me. But he wasn't too ashamed and scared to tell me previously when we had calmly discussed the relapse plan. He wasn't afraid of losing me when he was smoking weed in the house while I was in the shower. He could have called his sponsor, a friend, anything. I am devastated because we have been planning and canceling wedding plans for years, and this year things seem to be a bit different and definitely headed in the right direction. I'm also fairly certain, but will never know, that he is doing other things. This is just what he was caught red-handed with. When he relapsed when he first moved in, I let it go, and we moved on from it. I feel like every time this happens, I am shattered into a million pieces because we get along significant other well, We are similar and never get tired of just spending time together, even if it's just a trip to the supermarket. But how am I supposed to trust him ever again? How are we supposed to get married living like this? Kick him out for an undefined amount of time? Cancel the wedding? Just acknowledge the relapse and move forward? I am at a loss at this point. I can't see my life without him, but I also can't see my life continuing this way forever. He's such a good-hearted person, and sometimes I feel like I am overreacting because this doesn't happen super often, but also it happens too much to be normal. Too long did not read. My fiancé of 6 years struggles with addiction and has been relapsing a decent amount lately. Not angry about the relapse, angry about the lying to my face. Not sure if I should kick him out or just try and work things out again. It doesn't sound like he wants to quit smoking weed. Deal with that or bail. Maybe you can't, but I 100% can see your life continuing like this. And it will, as long as you stay with him. I understand if he had a drinking problem, why he needed to quit alcohol. But what's the problem with a weed pen?